Welcome to C# in 5 minutes. Please make sure to watch the video all the way through so you do not miss out on any crucial information. That being said, let's begin. So what are loops? A loop statement allows you to execute a statement or a group of statements multiple times. I took the liberty to draw this visual representation that is the general form of a loop statement in most programming languages. Let me walk you through this and explain it a bit more. The circle being the start point, and the arrows are indicating which way the code flows. So if I get the cursor over here, you can see that this is right here where we start, and it goes down here to the condition. Now it's going to check whether the condition is true or false, and depending whether one of those two options is going to flow either direction. So if the condition is true, it's going to go right and then head over to the conditional code. So let's say if it was true, print out hello world. Now, however, if it was false, oh, by the way, if it was true and we did the conditional code, it would just loop through again, hence the loop. Now, if it was false, it would do something else because we would have a if or else. So if it's true, do this, else if it's false, do something else. When do we use loops? There may be a situation where you need to execute a block of code several number of times. In general, the statements are executed sequentially. The first statement in a function is executed first, followed by the second, and so on. So let's take a look at the most common loops that you will encounter, that being the while, for, do while, and to top it off with nested loops. So how do we use loops? So while loop will loop as long as the condition is true and doesn't change. For instance, if we create a simple while loop with a condition of true, let's see, while and tab, this will run until the condition is false. Let me demonstrate. So we have a while loop that has the condition of true. So if I were to console write line hello world, as you can see to begin with, we have unreachable code. That's because it already knows that this is going to be nested and it will never reach it down here. It's not nested, it's just unreachable. More on nested later. If we start this, as you can see, it just keeps printing out hundreds and thousands of lines of hello world. Now, let's say we tell it to stop after the number of 5. So let's create a int variable, set it to 0. While true, we're going to write out hello world and we're going to increment I every time. So while the loop runs every time, we will increment this to, by 1. So while I is less than 5. If we run this real quick, you can see that we have 5 strings here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's because this incremented every single time it ran, so it only did it 5 times. A for loop will run for the amount of times we declare in the loop. And don't get confused, it will look a bit scary, but if you name your variables accordingly, you should be fine. Let me demonstrate. Let's create a loop that runs 3 times. Let's start by writing for and tab. Let's do upper is going to be 3. Now, as you can see, for int I, which is 0, we declare the value of int right in the loop. As long as I, that value right here, is less than 3, we want to increment. It's like the while loop we just did, but this does like the entire thing in here. So let's do this. Console write line hello world. Oopsie. Hello world is going to print out hello world 3 times. As you can see, it starts with 0, and as long as it's less than 3, so 0, 1, 2, that's 3 numbers, it will run for that many times. A do while works a lot like a while loop, besides the fact that it checks the condition at the end of the loop body. It's going to do something until it returns false. Let me demonstrate. So here I've created a simple do while. So it's going to do this until this returns false. As you can see, this would, return false because 5 is not greater than 10. So if we run this real quick, you can see that it only runs once. However, if we were to change this to 2, we get unreachable code again. And it's going to mass print hello world. And lastly, there are nested loops. This would be a loop nested inside of another loop. Let me show you. Now, what do you think this is going to do? Exactly. It's going to mass print hello world to the console because this is true, and while it's true, it's going to execute this over and over and over again until the while loop is false. So if I were to do false, let's see what happens. Nothing, because it doesn't even reach it. So are there no ways to break out of a infinite loop? There are. So if we do a while true, console write line, hello world. As you can see, we already know that this is going to mass print hello world. Now, if we put the keyword break at the end of it, it's only going to run once because it's going to break right after the first condition or right after the first statement in here. So if we had, like, let's say a really big project in here for some reason, we could break it after the first, I don't know, let's do 3. It's not going to reach those 2, it's only going to reach the first 3. Now for the assignment, I want you to create a while loop that runs 3 times and then exits out of the loop. You can also look into the continue keyword and see what that does. I hope this video was somewhat educational. I'll see you in the next one.